Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a fascinating and, honestly, kind of alarming 180-year history of how our personal privacy has systematically eroded. We'll be looking at all of this through the lens of law, technology, and corporate policy. It's a journey that reveals exactly how the world we live in today was built so quietly right around us. Let's dive right in with a metaphor that privacy advocates use all the time. Imagine dropping a frog into a pot of cool, comfortable water. If you slowly raise the heat, just degree by degree, that frog won't notice a thing until the water is completely boiling. Well, this perfectly describes our modern relationship with surveillance. We didn't just lose our privacy overnight. We gave it away, incrementally, while we were completely distracted enjoying the conveniences of the modern world. So, we'll be tracing this rising temperature across 5 distinct phases: the comfortable cool, the water begins to warm, the heat rises, the boiling point, and finally, a fully surveilled reality.
All right, let's start with Phase 1, the comfortable cool. This covers the pre-1990s era.
During this pre-1990s era, the water was room temperature. The frog was perfectly happy and everything felt entirely normal. But the foundational machinery of tracking was actually already being assembled. Way before the internet even existed, surveillance was quietly living in filing cabinets and ledger books. Like as early as 1841, the mercantile agencies started systematically tracking people's credit and character. They were essentially the world's very first data brokers. By 1921, this whole operation had expanded to 230 cities. But here's the crucial legal evolution pushing back against it. In 1965, the Supreme Court's Griswold v. Connecticut ruling hit like a major turning point. The court ruled that the Constitution contained this implied penumbra of privacy, establishing a constitutional right to it. It was a massive beacon of hope for advocates, and that momentum eventually led to the 1974 Privacy Act to regulate federal data. A huge step forward, for sure, but, well, mostly just on paper.
Moving on to Phase 2. The water begins to warm. Welcome to the 1990s.
The internet arrives. The frog is splashing around in digital delight. It's an exciting, super connected new world, right? But someone secretly turned on the burner. A totally defining moment hits in 1994 when Netscape invents the browser cookie. Now, it sounds harmless, I know, but this tiny file sitting on your computer allowed websites to actually report your online habits back to companies. Literally, for the first time in human history, digital platforms could remember you, track you, and just follow your habits as you moved from page to page.
And we immediately see this stark divergence in how different parts of the world reacted to this new tracking capability. Over in Europe, regulators sensed the danger in 1995 and sounded the alarm, issuing their very first proactive data protection directive. Meanwhile, American companies kind of just ignored the threat. Seriously, by 1997, a landmark study showed that only 17 out of the 100 top U.S. websites even had a privacy policy, and exactly 0 met basic standards. We had officially entered the Wild West of personal data.
Which brings us to Phase 3. The heat rises, spanning from 2001 to 2012.
That Wild West era didn't last long, though. Between 2001 and 2012, the heat drastically rises. The fear following the tragedy of September 11th became the absolute justification for a massive expansion of government surveillance, making the water noticeably warm. The sources detail how unbelievably fast things changed. Just 45 days after 9/11, the Patriot Act was passed, granting agencies sweeping monitoring powers over calls, emails, and finances, often completely without a warrant. And right in that exact same year, a profound irony emerged. Just as the government granted itself all these monitoring powers, we willingly put the ultimate tracking devices straight into our own pockets. We started carrying GPS-enabled cell phones. We loved having digital maps so much that we completely ignored the early alarms from privacy advocates about cell signal tracking.
And the government's appetite for data? It just kept growing. In 2002, the Pentagon proposed the Total Information Awareness Program. Their literal goal was to connect every single facet of private life, travel, medical records, credit cards, emails, into one giant surveillance scheme. Now, public outcry did successfully kill the official program. But the texts point out a pretty chilling reality. A lot of its individual pieces quietly survived, and they were built anyway.
So an absolutely crucial part of this legal timeline is the creation of Section 702 in 2008, passed under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA. This allowed the NSA to collect the communications of foreign targets. But here is the massive loophole. In doing so, it allowed them to sweep up enormous, unimaginable amounts of ordinary American data, just categorizing it simply as incidental collection. By 2012, your phone, your browser, your credit card, and your government were all building a highly detailed file on you. Next up, Phase 4, the boiling point, 2013 to the present day.
The frog finally feels the heat. But, as we'll see, it is already way too weak to jump out of the pot. The temperature spiked in 2013 with some truly explosive revelations. Edward Snowden leaked classified NSA documents exposing programs like Prism and Upstream. This was an absolute watershed moment because it confirmed what privacy advocates had been screaming about for years. Mass surveillance wasn't some fringe conspiracy theory. No, it was actual physical infrastructure capturing the internet activity of millions in bulk, entirely without individual warrants.
Since then, it's been this constant legal tug-of-war. In 2018, we saw a genuine victory with the Supreme Court's Carpenter v. United States ruling. It mandated warrants for long-term phone location data. Huge win, right? It meant police couldn't just demand your historical location from your cellular carrier without a judge's approval. But agencies simply found loopholes, and the surveillance nets only grew wider and more invasive. By 2021, investigative journalists revealed Pegasus, military-grade spyware infecting phones in over 45 countries. And just recently, in 2024, RISA expanded surveillance powers to include anyone with physical access to internet infrastructure. We're talking local IT workers and data center staff.
Finally, let's look at the result. Phase 5, a fully surveilled reality.
This brings us to the reality we live in right now, today. The pot is at a full rolling boil. Let's look really closely at the architecture of the world that was quietly built around us while we were busy enjoying its digital conveniences. Take your location, for example. The sources explain how your personal smartphone is recording your location every few seconds. And that data isn't just kept locally, it's legally sold to data brokers who sell it to advertisers. But here is the major legal workaround, and it is honestly staggering. Law enforcement agencies now just purchase that data straight from the brokers. Yep. By buying it on the open market, they legally bypass those earlier Supreme Court warrant protections, like that Carpenter ruling we literally just talked about, entirely.
And it's not just where you go, it's who you know. They don't even need to listen to what you're saying anymore. The metadata alone is enough. Just knowing who you call, when you call them, and for how long completely maps out your entire social graph. This allows algorithms to accurately predict your future behavior, your political leanings, and even your health conditions. All of that without ever needing the actual content of a single conversation. Absolutely wild. Because surveillance is no longer just a targeted tool aimed at suspects, but is actually baked into the very infrastructure of every app and device, the source text notes a stark and frustrating reality. True privacy feels nearly impossible today. Now, if you're trying to regain some control, advocates do suggest a few basic steps. You can proactively disable your phone's background location tracking, use encrypted messaging, and heavily restrict your app permissions. But let's be real here, completely opting out of surveillance today essentially means opting out of the modern world entirely.
The frog never jumped. Why? Because each lost degree of privacy, every single new cookie, every new GPS map, felt far too small to matter at the time. Well, now the water is boiling. Understanding this 180-year legal and technological history is the absolutely crucial first step to taking back our digital rights. And it leaves us with this critical final question. Now that we finally feel the heat, did we notice in time to actually do something about it? Well, thanks for joining me on this explainer. I really hope it gave you a powerful new perspective on that little device sitting right there in your pocket.